And just allow your eyes to close. And allow yourself to come back into yourself. We spend our whole lives distracted, pulled off center by everything happening around us. Allow yourself to just come back to center. Allow yourself to just rest in the present moment. Right here, right now. This very breath. Just keep staying with this moment and this breath. If you find yourself distracted, don't worry, just gently bring the awareness back to your breath, back to this moment. The level of peace and joy that you find in life is related very directly to your ability to exist deeply within the self, regardless of what's going on in the external surroundings. Let the surroundings be as they are. And allow yourself to drop into an infinite spaciousness, an infinite stillness within your own self. You can add, if you find yourself distracted, you can add a gentle mantra to it, which is the mantra of so hum. And it means I am that. I am one with the universe. I am one with all that is. So Just allow yourself gently chanting it on the inhalation. And hum gently on the exhalations. And allow that truth, the sound of the mantra, the words of the mantra, and the meaning of the mantra. Allow it to gently reverberate within you as you keep drawing that awareness inward, inward, and inward. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level in Namaste. And gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly and gently, lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome to Satsang. Leading meditations is always a blessing. We begin almost all of the satsangs with them. And it's also, of course, always a challenge in a space where there's so much of the world going on. But I find it such a really beautiful opportunity, and I was reminded of it especially tonight as there's a, huge wedding dance party going on in the back, because it's so easy in our lives to have excuses for why we can't meditate, or why we can't be in peace, or why we can't be happy in the moment. And it's always something out there. It's like, well, of course I can't meditate. There's a dance party going on next door. Like, how do you meditate in the middle of a dance party with your walls shaking? But the same way that you're able to actually find and experience that part of you that isn't impacted by the music, that isn't impacted by the happenings of the world around. Not only is that your meditation, but that becomes your key to life. In Hindi, we speak about the external world as paristhithi. The sthiti, situation, all over, around. And the sthiti inside of us, we call swasthiti. Swa is self. And most of us live by thinking that our swasthiti is determined by the paristhithi. Like that which is going on around me, is that determining my inner world? But what meditation teaches us and reminds us is no. Actually, your inner world, your swasthiti, is creating your experience in the paristhithi. That how it is inside is what's creating your world outside. So I was reminded of that tonight, but I always love the opportunity to give everyone a little bit of an extra challenge, sort of the advanced course. Because it's not about a 7 or 10 minute meditation. It's about a tool for life. That if you can find that stillness within, that quiet within, that peace within, on a purely literal level in terms of external noise and your inner quiet, then you become able to find peace and joy and all of that we're looking for in life in the midst of, regardless of what the paristhithi is, regardless of what's going on around you. So, yeah, I hope you all were able, even for a moment, to tap into that place in you that was still and silent, even in the midst of the activity. So we always begin with a question that's come from our online audience. And tonight the question is, Sadhviji, can I become you? Asked by someone who's, I think her name is Smita, but her online username is Catch Smita. So Smita, when you catch yourself, when you catch Smita, then you don't need to become anyone else. Because you're here to be Smita. You don't want to be me. I mean, yes, we all have, people in our lives that we know or we just know from afar, and we think, oh God, if I could just be them, then things would be great. But there's two important pieces to that. First of all, our life satisfaction is directly related, directly in line with, parallel to, how well we fulfill our own dharma. And so, Smita, your dharma is different than mine. You're not going to find, even though you can look at me and say, well, she looks really satisfied, that doesn't mean that you're going to be satisfied. I'm satisfied because this is my dharma. And the more I can live it, the more I can open myself to it, the more I can surrender to it, the happier I am. But living someone else's dharma, no matter how good it looks on them, isn't actually what's going to make us happy. So that's the first piece. But all of that which you so graciously celebrate or honor or see in me that you want to become? Of course you can. Because I'm just living as an instrument in God's hands. I mean, that's literally my prayer every day. Is just use me. Like, you know what a mess I am. You know all of my struggles, you know my challenges, you know all of that. But use me anyway. Just use me in the very, very best way that you can. Let me be an instrument, a vessel, a vehicle, a tool, a channel for God's grace. And what I find is that the divine is very compassionate, very forgiving. And that's the goal. So Smita, whatever way you can be an instrument of the divine flow, and we all have different opportunities. We all have different karmic packages. This came out a lot when my memoir, Hollywood to the Himalayas, came out, and I was doing book tours and talking about it, because it's so easy to look at a story and assume that that's what everyone has to do in order to get to the end point, that like you too must begin in Hollywood, then you too must come and leave that, move to Rishikesh, become a renunciant in order to have the lessons, the experiences, the growth, the healing. And I found myself just continually, wherever I was, speaking and just making sure over and over and over again that no one thought that that was the message, and that everyone got the teaching that for me that was the way. Because that was my path. That was my dharma. But that which I've been given, you don't have to begin in Hollywood and then make your way here. And for that, yes, I mean, this is a divine, holy, beautiful place. Come if you can. Spend as much time here as you can. But wherever you are, in whatever your dharma is, your life path is, that truth is there. That awakening is there, that transformation is there, that healing is there, that opening is there. But you have to open yourself to it. This didn't look like a very good path when I chose it. It wasn't like I was somehow clairvoyant and I could see 27 years in the future and say, yeah, okay, that's what I'm going to be doing. I had no idea. It defied logic. It defied everything I had been raised with, everything that I thought, everything that had been a priority in my life, a value in my life. But I knew this was where I needed to be. So Smita, live your truth. Whatever it is in you that is speaking, live that. And offer yourself every minute, every moment, whenever you remember, but at least once a day, to God, to just use you. Just use you. And God will. And then you will have caught Smita, and then you'll be able to share Smita with all of us. Because that's the point. It's not about catch and hold. It's about catch, allow, and then share. So you find yourself, that's the catch part. You find it, you discover it, you allow it, and then you share it. Beautiful, though. Thank you for that unusually fun question. Other questions? Yeah. Anybody who has a question, there's a microphone here, a microphone here. Just feel free and come up. Yes.
Pranam Sadhviji. I have just done a Reiki course with
Krishna Priya.
Krishna Priya.
Yes.
I'm thankful for that. I am a medical doctor. I look after sick children.
Wonderful.
In critical care. And I just want to understand whether we can integrate this power of prayers with medical science.
Yes, great question. Great question. You can and you must. By must, I don't mean you have to force it on people. When people have a sick child, the last thing that they need is somebody trying to force religion or spirituality on them. But what I've seen is even if people were not necessarily very religious or spiritual, if their child is really sick, suddenly people start to pray. Suddenly even people who were not temple goers or church goers, suddenly you're sick or your kid is sick or your loved ones are sick, and suddenly it all becomes, please God, please God. Now, the reason I say you must is because there's actually a lot of evidence, scientific evidence, of the power of what is called in the scientific circles intention, but it's prayer. They've done really, really amazing research at places like Princeton and other top universities. And so it's not like research that's being done in yoga studios or, smaller places, but really esteemed universities, esteemed institutions are doing studies around the impact of thought and intention on everything ranging from the rate at which plants grow, the health with which they grow, the rate at which, and this goes directly to your point, the rate at which immune system cells divide in a petri dish that is being held by someone else. Now just take that in for a moment, because that's, for those of us from a scientific background, that is really heavy. You over there, with a power of intention, can change the rate at which, we know, for example, that diseases like cancer are due to unregulated cell division. We know that issues around immunity, autoimmunity, all of this has to do with the way that these immune cells function. Now imagine that you over there, with your power of intention, can be so powerful. I'm holding a petri dish with cells in my hand, and your thoughts impact what they do. Now imagine that you're in New Jersey, and I'm in Europe, because that's actually how they did it. Princeton's in New Jersey, and they did it with universities in, I think it was Denmark, somewhere in Europe. So it's not about a proximity, but that power of intention. They even did it, and this one continues to blow my mind, they even did it with what we call random number generators, which are just machines, metal machines that randomly generate either a 0 or a 1. And if you do it only 10 times, yeah, you could end up with, 7 zeros and 3 ones. But you do it enough times and you're always going to end up with 50% 0, 50% 1. It's just the nature of flipping a coin. A metal machine, not a living plant that we say, okay, it can feel me. Not even an immune system cell that you could say, okay, somehow it's alive, there's this prana, there's somehow a metal machine. They had people sitting and intending either 0 or 1, and it actually threw the machine off to a degree that was what they call statistically significant. It means worth talking about. It counts. So we know the power of thought, of intention. So absolutely prayer works. What we know is that the more people who do it at once, with a very clear, very specific intention, the better it works. So if they want to engage prayer, get them to have their friends and family praying together every day, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., whatever it may be. But encourage them not just to pray, but also to gather people praying at the same time with the same, holding the same vision, the same intention. Because that's actually the way that it's been shown scientifically to work even better. It's why prayer circles have such a power. And lastly, what I would say is, and there's a lot to say on the subject, but for the moment, lastly, aside from all of that, there's an incredible power of thought in the one who's being prayed for, especially when they're a child. Not only when they're a child, but especially when they're a child. And if that child knows that the forces of the world are praying for them, you never know what their own mind as well may be able to do. The only point to be really careful of, and this goes true with any sort of non-traditional medical intervention, and traditional medical intervention, but especially the non-traditional ones. Things around prayer, around meditation, around mantra, around all of that, is if it doesn't work, that doesn't mean that your prayers were not good enough. Because we're able on some level to accept, it still hurts like crazy, but on some level we're able to accept, okay, chemo didn't work. Okay, the doctors couldn't think of anything else. The surgery was a failure. The doctor couldn't save her. But when we think about it being up to us in our prayer, and the person is not saved, there's an incredible sense of betrayal by God. You were supposed to save him or her, you didn't. I prayed, you didn't listen. And also a sense of anger at the self, as though somehow I'm not spiritual enough or pure enough, because if I were, God would have answered my prayers. And so you want to just make really sure that you encourage it, but that you also make sure that people understand we all have karmic packages, and we have karmic journeys, and that which is meant to happen is going to happen. And it doesn't mean that God has betrayed them, and it doesn't mean that they're not pure enough or good enough. So that's a very fine but very important balance to make sure that you find. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yes.
Jai Shri Krishna, everyone.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Good evening, everyone. I have a question. I am a special DLED teacher, and I have my internship since 3 days. I am here, so I would like to ask. I teach special students, those who are differently able, disabled. So that time, I would like to ask if someone is, for example, mentally disabled. So that time, it's typical. If someone is very arrogant. So I would like to ask, yeah, I have experience teaching in private school since 2.5 years. So my question is, to be precise and concise, how should I tackle, because...
If they're acting with anger, you mean the student?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, interestingly, the answer that I'm going to give pertains to everyone, not just those who are differently abled, but it helps to begin by thinking about them. Assume for a moment that you have a student or a child who is on the autism spectrum, just for example. Children on the autism spectrum tend to really, in most cases, or many cases rather, not like to be touched, especially by people they don't know. It's very instinctive for a lot of people to go up and, touch a child, especially you're a teacher, you want to. So one of the aspects of being on the autism spectrum is that many of them react very badly to being touched and absolutely may whip around and, could conk you in the eye or now. They didn't mean it. They weren't planning to hurt you. They weren't even thinking, oh, what an awful person. I can't believe he touched me. I'm going to show him. It was an outcome of what we can think of in a kinder, gentler, compassionate way. We say differently abled. But we also think about it as a state of dis-ease. You wouldn't say they're diseased, but a dis-ease. And I'm specifically using these words because when someone who is differently abled acts out in anger, in defiance, in other inappropriate ways, physically inappropriate, sexually inappropriate, verbally inappropriate ways, we understand intuitively that they're doing this because of that dis-ease, state of not ease, lack of ease, of their current situation, of whatever it is they are living with, struggling with. You would never say, what a mean kid or a bad kid, or, you would never hit him back. You would never say, how dare you? Who do you think you are? Learn some manners, kid. Right? We understand. They're doing the best they can. They've got some additional struggles, some additional challenges. They're doing the best they can. And that's exactly how you should respond. They're doing the best they can. But interestingly, a lot of us find that very easy with those who are differently abled. We would understand, oh, they're just experiencing this or suffering from that. But those who appear to be samely abled, not differently abled, those who appear to be the same as we are, if they're rude or they're mean or they're inappropriate, we take it very personally, we get very angry. And the truth is, they are also suffering from a state of dis-ease. If you are in a state of ease, a state of joy, a state of peace, emotionally, psychologically, biochemically, neurologically, that's what you're going to share in the world. And if you're not going to be able to share that in the world. And so with your students, understand they're doing the best they can. Help them to whatever extent you can. Show them what's inappropriate. I mean, especially if they're being violent to another person. To the extent that they are able to understand, help them understand. To the extent that behavioral rewards and punishments are helpful, use them. If you hit, you sit over here. If you hit, no dessert. If you hit, whatever it may be. But so that they're able to learn in whatever capacity they have, that their actions have consequences. And that's an important thing to learn. But obviously they should never be insulted or belittled or condemned or anything that points to there being something wrong with them. But just to the extent that each of them is able to understand, help them understand, because the truth is, in an ideal world, the majority of them are going to be able to live on their own. Hopefully. I mean, the ideal world is to institutionalize as few people as possible. To have as many as possible able to live on their own. I mean, they can live with their parents now, but eventually their parents will not be here. A lot of these challenges are lifelong. So let them learn from a young age what is considered socially appropriate behavior, even if it doesn't come naturally. And if you gently and lovingly but diligently drill it into them, every time you hit, no dessert, or you sit here, or you can't, play basketball at recess, or play with the stuffed animal, or do the art project. Don't hit, you get it. Do hit, you don't get it. And what that'll do is it'll just, on a really basic level, give them yet another skill that enables them to be independent, to hold down a job, to take care of themselves, to go grocery shopping. Because being differently able doesn't necessarily mean, of course, that you're not able to live in the world. So at a young age, you might as well begin by training them and helping them to understand appropriate ways of being in the world and guiding them with loving and gentle hands. Yeah, beautiful. Uh-huh. Can you speak into the mic so I can hear you? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, one more question I would like to ask, only last question, because there are a lot of people here. I have an invitation from Italy because my elder brother and Bhabi, since 15 years, they are in Italy. And he approached me. He's not my real brother, my relative, cousin brother. And he approached me that you have a talent, you can easily accommodate everyone, and you are extrovert. So he suggested me that why don't you come Italy? But there is a small problem, not a huge problem. My father, I would like to not forget him because he has an asthmatic problem. He is ill. So my mom always told me that someday you should leave him. And even, to be honest, since 6.5 months, I follow brahmacharya, to be honest. Because since earlier I am not following in bhakti, and since 6 months it's I can say supernatural power. My mom gave me 7 chakra bracelet, lot of things, and I devote. Since Rishikesh I come here 2 times. Since 3 days I was here. My father yesterday called me that whenever you come, since 3 days I ask question, but by the grace of God, cosmos, I believe in karma. Today you give me opportunity to ask question. So it's my question that how should I eradicate and feel this, because I love my father and I cannot leave him. But my brother, he approached me and he even asked his delegate, his father, my uncle. He had a good relationship with Italy Prime Minister, and he was a good. Even he's also in bureaucrat. He's in department. So he approached me. Since 3 days he called me. I never pick up his call.
No, I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
So life is always about choices. It's always about different options, different choices, and we always have to weigh. I mean, this is a life lesson. We always have to weigh priorities, values, goals. Is Italy a nice place? Absolutely. Would you enjoy it? Probably. Could you have nice opportunities? Sure, why not? But being in Italy, eating all of the pasta and gelato and having the wonderful opportunities and doing all of that, if you knew that you had left your sick asthmatic father here, who needed you to be there to take care of him, would you actually be happy? So, and this is for you to answer, of course. I don't know the answer for you. But it's really important for us to look at not just the external of a situation, but actually how would you be in that situation? So, beautiful place, Italy. Your cousin brother seems to be really enjoying it. He thinks that you would really like it. Maybe you would. But you know what? Italy's always going to be there. Your dad's not always going to be there. And if he needs you right now, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to need you forever. You're quite young. My guess is your dad is still relatively young. Is there a way that you can set up his care? Asthma's not a death sentence. Lots and lots and lots of people live long lives with asthma. Give a little bit of time, a little bit of attention, a little bit of care to setting up a situation. Who is there to take care of dad? What does dad need to do to manage his asthma? What do his doctors say? What situation system can you set up? Does he need to lose weight? Does he need to exercise? Does he need to eat better? Does he need to do this or do that or change inhalers? Whatever it may be. Do that so that Italy's not going anywhere. So that when you go, if you decide to go, you go with a clear heart and a clear mind. And then if things change and you need to come back, you'll come back. It's not the moon. But make sure that you're making decisions not because someone is enticing you to. Even if that person seems to have your best interest in mind. They don't live in your mind and in your heart. I can't tell you how many people told me, don't move to India. You're crazy. And they meant well. They weren't trying to ruin my life or thwart me from fulfilling my dharma. They really thought they were giving me the very best advice. But they don't live inside of me. You live inside of you. So you need to really figure out what's going to make you inside of you feel like you are living in alignment with your values, your ethics, your priorities, your goals, your dharma. And then live that. Because I guarantee it, if you live according to all of that, and you end up never seeing Italy, it's okay. But if you rush off to Italy and you abandon all of the rest, all the gelato in the world isn't going to bring you happiness. When you leave yourself behind, you can't abandon yourself and expect that you're going to find happiness. If yourself is here because of that commitment, fulfill it and then go. Okay? Yeah, good. Of course. Last question.
Hello. So I'm here for the first time and I really like this interactive satsang. This is really nice to see. So I'm 27 years old and I've done lots of little bit things, some big, some small. And me and my friends
¿En
often...
qué vas que una área por?
Me and my friends...
Now, yes, thank you.
I'll repeat.
That's okay.
I'm 27 years old and me and my friends often have this question. I think it's the $1 million question. How to find your purpose / dharma. I think you might get this a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do get it a lot. The question, if you didn't hear him, was he's 27, and he and his friends are always wondering, how do we find our purpose? I do get it a lot, but interestingly, I didn't get it 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's a question of the last 10, 15 years. Maybe 20. Your grandparents did not wonder what their purpose was. Right? And it's really interesting when you think about that, because we all wonder it now. Pretty much everyone. Not the older generation. But it's also not just the youngsters, because it's percolated into society. When I was 27, no one worried about their purpose. Really, and that was just 25 years ago. Yeah, people wanted to know what job to do and, what skills they were good at and where they were going to work or whether they were going to go to graduate school and who they were going to marry and those sorts of things. But this pervasive heaviness of my purpose, what is my purpose? It wasn't there. And it's become epidemic these days. And on the one hand, it's actually a beautiful sign, because one of the reasons that previous generations did not wonder so much is there weren't actually so many options. There weren't so many different ways of putting food on the table. You had to have enough money to put food on the table. So everyone knew they've got to do something that's going to make money. What's happened over the last few decades, especially with the tech revolution, is that, and then with social media, the way that things have changed in the last couple of decades have created jobs that didn't exist before. If you look back at, say, 1910 to 2010, for example, 100-year span, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be an engineer, you could be a teacher, you could be a nurse, you could be some kind of an artisan, making things, creating things, an artist or a handicraft maker, whatever it was. There were a limited number of standard professions that people went into, right? Those with big dreams dreamed of, being astronauts, pilots, right? Policemen, firemen, right? But a very limited number. You'd go around a classroom and, same 5 or 6 things would keep coming up when you'd say, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's happened, and it's really beautiful, is now you can pretty much make money doing anything. I mean, people are creating jobs, creating careers. The level of whether it's an entrepreneurship of an actual business, whether it's an inventor, whether it's through aspects of internet and social media and influencing and creators. But these days, there's really kind of no limit to the possibilities. Not just of what you can do, but actually how you even can make a lucrative living. And it's fantastic, it's wonderful. And it has created a couple of recent generations who are really confused. It's the downside of having so many possibilities. Here's what's important to remember. Your ultimate purpose in life, like the actual reason you were born, has nothing to do with how you make a living. It only has to do with you recognizing, knowing, realizing, experiencing the truth of who you are. And you can do it in whatever profession you choose. As long as whatever profession you choose does not pull you away from your spiritual path. So whatever you do the rest of your day, make sure that you've got time for your meditation, for your prayers, for your spiritual practice. Make sure that your mind, whatever else it may be thinking about, is also focused on remembering who you are as soul, as spirit, as consciousness, as divinity. Let that be your primary purpose, because that's actually what you're here for. And as far as the rest, choose something. It's not gonna land in your lap just sitting on the grass. Choose something. Choose something you've got some skills and abilities in. Might as well give yourself a head start. Choose something that interests you, that excites you. Might as well do something that you're excited to get out of bed in the morning. And do something that is of benefit to the world. Where business is going, and I am far from a financial analyst or anyone who really knows much about that at all, but what I know is that if our earth is going to survive, where business absolutely must go, is toward ways of living, ways of doing that are in alignment with sustainability. Because we don't have very much longer if we keep going like this. So choose something that is in alignment with healing and helping others, the planet. Something that benefits the world in some way. And offer yourself. It goes back to the first question. Just offer yourself, okay, God, use me. You've given me this beautiful life. You've given me this opportunity, these skills, these abilities, this education. Use me. And then just start. Because I think another thing about your generation is you'll probably do a lot of different things. Most people I know under the age of 40, 45, other than doctors, are actually doing lots of different things. They did one thing in their 20s, another thing in their 30s, then something else. Now they're kind of reinventing themselves in their 40s. And it's beautiful. So don't feel like, as in the days of your grandparents, that what you choose now you've got to do till the day you retire. Choose something now. Do it. Do it as long as it's beneficial to the world, as long as it's helping you to grow. And when it's not, offer yourself up continually, and a new way will come through you. But remember your ultimate purpose, because that's the main point of why you're here. Beautiful. Yes. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. And I look so forward to being back together with you all again tomorrow. So much love to you all.